See Jazz stop bopping his head. I wasn't quick enough switching over. That is usually our secret for when we truly go live, is when Jazz really gets into the music, so I can cut over to him bopping around. And hey, no, you go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that music is groovy as hell. I'm bopping.
There's nothing wrong with that. So, hey guys, everybody, we're back, and we're not alone, and neither is the guest. Welcome to Guest Quest, the TTRPG community interview stream and podcast brought to you by the Gimme Da Loot podcast, the Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition actual play podcast that's happy to welcome you into their house so you can walk all over them. My name's Turner. I'll be your host and the guy most likely to titter like an immature man-child every time I mention our guest show. From the party of 5, I'm joined by
Harlan. I play Todd the Tiefling and on Gimme Da Loot. I'm ashamed of my performance in the tournament, so I have nothing. Just
I'm ashamed that you haven't figured out how to get your audio to come through your mic instead of your headset.
I know. What? Wait.
We're moving on. Next.
We spent 20 minutes in the green room and no one told me.
I texted you.
We tried to tell you.
I think I noticed.
I'm Jamie. I play Eldrin on Gimme Da Loot, and I am also the president of the Toddler Haters fan club.
I'm sorry. Todd and the Toddlers was his high point.
Oh yeah.
Not any of his roles. Todd and the Toddlers. I really wish we had a whale that would have donated $500 because I would have referred you guys to that for the rest of the history of the podcast. Much to your dismay.
Yes.
I am Jazz. I play Fate on the Gimme Da Loot podcast, and I am ashamed.
You should have came without cones. I coned the shame.
Yeah.
And I am Anthony, who plays Babatunde. I'm disappointed.
Yeah. They're going to be helping me talk to the cast members of Tabletop Tiddies, a D&D podcast and live stream run entirely by people of marginalized genders. Tabletop Tiddies is in their second season with not one, but 2 actual play live streams and podcasts. For more information on, and I'm going to say this wrong, Into the Revelia, close, maybe hopefully a little bit.
That was it.
And Titties by Night, check them out at tabletoptiddies.com. Yes, that's titties with double D's, which again, I am incredibly jealous to hear. So joining us are Sarah Mayfield, who plays Wilmer. I will fireball you all for charity. Adamith Meandis the third.
Meandis, yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's fine.
If that's the only thing I get wrong, because Lord knows I'm going to get the next one really wrong. And Kelly Wright, who plays Asher. I hit my keyboard with Stunning Strike to make it do that AE thing. Lakener.
Lochner, I think.
Lochner? There we go. Tiddies, thank you for joining us. How are y'all doing?
So good.
Great. Thanks for having us. I feel proud.
You should. You guys
basking in glory over here.
So before we get into it, I believe the boys have something they need to say to you. Party of 5, who to champ?
Titties is the champ.
Yeah, that's right. They are. So Tabletop Tiddies participated in our very first charity stream, Gimme Da Belt, which was to support Game to Grow, and they walked away as the champion. They came, they saw, they womped their way into helping us raise over $1,200 for a really great charity. So really quickly, just a little bit more about the two of you guys. Sarah acts as producer, ad and sponsor coordinator, guesting organizer, and publicist, which is actually you coordinate which shows you go out on, right? Is that what you would?
Yeah.
Okay. And publicist for the second season, which should make the rest of the party of 5 feel terrible about the amount they're contributing to our podcast when you guys hear how much they're doing for their shows and podcasts. Sarah's a actor, classically trained singer, indie songwriter, podcaster, and a playwright. When not making music or rolling for a wild magic surge, she is freestyle roller skating, stilt walking, puppeteering, skiing, snowboarding, and rock climbing, and generally being better than the rest of us.
Chill out.
Yeah, that's a little bit, right?
I'm learning this stuff.
Other projects include her original pop rock musical, The Girl Next Door, her YouTube channel where she performs original songs and covers, various film projects that can be found on our website. Sarah, like her fellow players, is a graduate of, and God knows I'm going to say this wrong, Capilano University's musical theater program, and can be found around British Columbia performing in high schools, historic theaters, and under the open air. Kelly Wright is the storyteller for Tiddies by Night. They run the back end of the Tabletop Tiddies streams, which means they were probably the one most horrified by the jank ass layout that I provided for Gimme Da Belt, and designs all the logos and overlays for their currently projects. And I have already solicited their services to help us out with ours. So, as part of Tabletop Tiddies, Kelly is excited to finally get to play in a long-form D&D game, especially as a character that represents the non-binary community. Other projects include them talking about horror movies and cocktails on Drinking and Screaming, www.drinkingandscreaming.com, or playing video games on Super Hopped Up on YouTube. Okay, cool. Guys, hello. After that massive lore dump on the two of you, we're going to get into it a little bit. So I always kind of like to start off a little bit with your RPG origins and XP. Sarah, your bio says prior to Tabletop Tiddies, you'd only played once in high school, and now you're in multiple campaigns. All D&D or other systems?
Oh, so I did I did a first deeply flawed is very accurate explanation in high school. It was basically what the most fun part of D&D is? Like character creation when you haven't read the rule book and you don't know what anything is. So it was basically 4 hours of character creation and half an hour of gameplay that was only combat. And because we didn't know what to do, the turns took 10 minutes each person. So
that's a good amount of time for turn.
Yeah, it's average.
That's the amount of time Todd takes trying to figure out what his movement's going to be on. We have to edit that down a little bit.
10 minutes is a fair number.
Yeah. So that kind of put me off D&D for a bit. But then when the pandemic hit, a friend that I'd been in a show with reached out to me about starting a campaign. So I actually played that campaign for maybe 3 months before we started Tabletop Tiddies. So I did have a bit of more long form experience before then too.
Cool. And you're still playing outside of the podcast now, or is the podcast your main focus? So what other? So Wilmer's a sorcerer, as your opponents learned very painfully during the match. What other kind of characters do you play?
I have gotten really into clerics recently. I went on one of those websites that's what is the most versatile class? And it was basically bards and clerics. So I decided to test out a cleric to see. And I'm still getting my footing in that class, but definitely clerics are top. And I also love paladins.
Yeah, 5e was really kind to clerics, really super kind. Are you DMing at all or just playing characters?
I've done some DMing for newbie friends, and I've done some one shots on the podcast, but I've never done any kind of long form campaign yet. Cool. Yeah.
Kelly, you're running what sounds like a very cool spin on Vampire the Masquerade with Tiddies by Night. Can you tell them what's a little bit different about your version of Vampire?
Yeah, so every I don't want to shit on other vampire streams. This isn't me.
No,
that's just describing.
That's okay. We're terrible people. We shit on stuff all the time. It's
a lot of vampire streams are very grimdark and deal with the inner beast and a lot of darker themes. And I wanted to make a stream that was almost more approachable to people who wanted to learn the system, but watch Twilight and the Vampire Diaries like I do. So it's kind of like a monster of the week style. We have 3 to 4 episode chapters that deal with a monster pops up, investigate it, and then get rid of it or solve its problem or something like that.
It's got like a Victorian Ghostbustery vibe to it, right?
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Char made a tool recently and called it the Ghostbuster, much to my chagrin.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I have played a tiny bit of Vampire, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll check it out just real quick to see. And I was like, oh shit, no, he's done a cool version. Damn it, now I have to pay attention to this. So was really impressed.
Explain that to me. I don't know anything about it. Is that D&D or is it a different game altogether?
It's an entirely different system. It's a D10 system. So whereas D&D, you would roll a D20 and add your stats. Vampire is more you have stats and that determines how many D10s you roll. And then the successes on the D10s are how good you did. So it's one of those games where like character creation is such a pain in the ass. Like it's so
Yeah, a little bit.
so much back like pre-production, but then once you get into the game, it's like, oh, I roll 5 dice. Oh, I roll 6 dice, and it's like a bit simpler than I find a lot of D&D, especially where there's a lot of math.
The thing that always got me with the World of Darkness series, and I think this is, I mean, I played Vampire, I played Mage, the Ascension. I don't think I ever played a ton of Werewolf, but they're very focused on, hey, you get to be these monsters and these really cool characters. Don't tell anybody. Like they're
Yeah.
like Vampire the Masquerade and Mage. Like there's the whole paradox factor in Mage. So taking it kind of out of that a little bit and doing a cooler kind of steampunky spin on it, I was like, oh well, he solved that problem. They've done something cool with it. So nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thanks.
So you describe yourself as a forever DM for our newer viewers. Would you mind explaining what a forever DM is?
It's that person in the group of friends who, whenever someone's like, let's start a new campaign, they look to you to DM it because either other people don't want to take it on, or the nice one would be that they trust you more, I hope.
You're good at it.
Like, yeah, you're good at it.
Yeah.
Or you don't trust your friends to do it, and you're like, no, I am.
A little bit.
But you end up with like 20 characters that you want to play, but then everyone makes you DM. Yeah.
Are you still playing outside of Tabletop Tiddies, or?
Yeah, we actually we had to abandon the city during the pandemic because it became this hellscape. So we live on my mom's property, and I actually got my mom into D&D. So we have a home game.
Nice.
That's just Shar and my mom, and I'm running them through like the Feywilds and stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Is the new? Are you using the new into the Witchlight? Is that the newest?
I'm gonna start adding stuff from that, but we started this like almost a year ago, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
We dipped into the Feywild for about 5 seconds, and I had the guys fight Mr. Evil Roger, an evil Mr. Rogers. But that's been about the depth of the Feywild that we've got into. I gender swapped a hag, and then played off the fact that everybody trusts a nice old man in a cardigan.
We did. We fell right into it.
Todd
Not all of us.
No,
Todd almost died.
Right.
Todd almost died. A rug nearly killed him. Do you ever? And I think you kind of maybe it's because I very much the same way. I was always the forever DM in our group, and it was always great to get to go and play when you did get the opportunity to, but there's always that backseat DM voice in the back of your head. You'd be like, oh, it's not the way. Do you find yourself having to kind of fight a backseat DM urge sometimes when you're playing?
Yeah, once in a while. Usually it only happens to me when I like make a character that's like specifically I want to accomplish things with the character. Like I've min-maxed this one ability that I really want to utilize a lot, and then if the DM like doesn't know how to use it properly or something, then I'll be kind of a jackass. But for the most part, I'm like, it's your table, your rule. I'll fucking do whatever you say is the best way to do it.
Yeah, and I almost correct on that side. I'll be like, their house, their rules, be very respectful of the fact that you're in their space, but they're still in the back. The more I play, the more it's like, this makes me want to tell another story on go out and start DMing again on my own. So it's a double-edged sword that when you get to play, all you do is think about DMing. And when you're DMing, you're like, man, it would be really cool to play. I would really like to enjoy it when I crit, as opposed to be like, oh no, I've just killed someone. This is a terrible, terrible thing. How am I going to write myself out of this one? Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, you guys have both got really impressive resumes. So I'd like to touch on that for a second. Sarah, you have your level 8 voice certificate with the Royal Conservatory of Music, as well as your advanced music theory rudiments and level 2 piano certificates. Guitar is listed as your favorite instrument. Besides making you sound like a badass in the TTRPG community, could you explain what a level 8 voice, level 2 music theory, and level 2 pianist multi-class means to people who came up through the thoroughly flawed U.S. school system?
For sure. So level 8, so like the levels are the same as like level piano. Like they have the Royal Conservatory of Music has the same kind of levels for any instrument you play. Like and they're slowly and surely integrating more like world instruments into their levels and stuff too. But basically once you get to a certain level, you need to have like rudiments, which is basically like music math. So it's like all the like literally like you sit down with a book and you have to learn the different scales and the distance between notes and what different chord progressions mean. So it's kind of like, it's interesting that you say like a multi-class, because that is kind of what it feels like. Because once I think I was at my level 6 or 7 voice when I started to look into piano. And I already had my advanced music theory rudiments at that point, which is like the math. So I didn't have to do that for the piano. So it's like the same kind of way in D&D where like your stats kind of cross if you like make your build right,
that,
you know?
You had that charisma at 13 already. You were ready to go.
Yeah.
Harlan,
what did you subclass in piano? No, I'm joking.
I raised my hand because when she was originally going through the levels, I did not think she meant real school. I thought she was talking D&D. I thought it was a reference to. I was like, okay, level 8. Okay, that's quirky. But no, this is school.
Yeah, there's like there's a max, like you can get to level 10 and then the levels after that they have funky names, but it's basically like there's 2 more levels after that where once you get to level 12 you're like master. Like master. So I always think it's kind of a cool way to just be like it's a good way to establish where you're at skill wise too.
So you're telling me you can prestige class as a musician?
Right. She can get the Trimaster done pretty quickly.
I mean, it's like most campaigns. You end at level 12. You can't get any higher than that because then you
then you just go full god mode.
Yeah, exactly.
Music is no longer fun because you beat music.
We solved all the musical problems. So, as a musician in the TTRPG community, do you ever get tired of people asking you if you play bards at all?
Oh my god. When I first started playing D&D, it was like, oh yeah, you gotta play a bard. Like you can just sing all the songs, like whenever you have spells and stuff. And I saw this post online and it was very relevant, where it's just like, no other class do they expect you to do the things that your character does. Like if I'm playing a ranger, you don't expect me to hit a target with a bow and arrow at like 100 feet. But like for some reason you see that a lot in bards and stuff where if you're like, oh, you're going to be singing this, like, why don't you sing it? Or I played a spoken word bard and it was very much like every time you cast a spell, like I was snapping and just like making up horrible spoken word poetry on the spot.
Oh no!
Wait, so
it was fun.
You guys don't carry a short sword wherever you go?
I actually did make a deal with a demonic presence because I wanted to play warlock. So
that makes sense.
You gotta.
Harlan is training to make a blacksmith. Did you make that?
This is made by me.
That's so cool.
Yeah, before he even started playing with Gimme, he was like, "Yeah, man, I think your wife got you a blacksmithing class, birthday, right?" And I was like, "Well, now it's inevitable. Now you have to play." So, and we do expect Jamie to be able to hit targets at 100 feet as the ranger. We do expect that.
Oh yeah.
So don't
or at least an owl.
I've at least shot a bow before.
at least an owl. So, do you have any suggestions for home players on using music to set the mood for their home games? Like or do you have a favorite resource for D&D mood music, or do you even use mood music outside of your performative play?
For sure. So I, like, as I said, I don't have that much experience DMing, so I don't tend to be the person that has to source all of those music tracks. Like, that's really kind of more of Kelly's realm of expertise. They're the one who's always like searching through Sirenscape and finding all those cool tunes.
So then, Kelly, it's been kicked over to you. How would you handle that?
My method is find stuff that sounds cool and use that.
Nice.
I'm like, this song sounds cool.
Nice.
I'm gonna use that one.
Okay.
I have like mostly it's just like mood setting. It's like, oh, this is like an upbeat track that's kind of sounds like Victorian-y, so I'm gonna use that one and maybe put like rats in the background because they're fighting in a rat pit. And then my musical level is I learned to play one song on piano once, and then I was like, my ADHD is like, I accomplished something. Never touching this again.
So you can play hot cross buns too.
Hey.
Is that the
I
one
know
that you
that
can do the knuckles?
Oh, I know that one too. I don't know what it's called though.
It's just called the Knuckle Song.
Yes.
The musician in me is just terrified.
That's what we came here for.
That's a good transition. So, because Kelly, you're actually a graduate of the Vancouver Film School game design program. What exactly does the Vancouver, besides sounding awesome, like an awesome turducken of learning, what does the Vancouver Film School game design program entail?
It's like very much a jack of all trades. Because I originally went into it because I wanted to do 3D modeling for games. And so you go in and nothing is like, you don't learn like to be the expert in anything. You basically learn how to do the fundamentals of everything, like 3D modeling, drawing, writing, game balancing, scripting, and stuff like that. And so I
would
kind
you
of came in as a jack of all trades.
Would you say that it's better, a little bit better, or much better than Full Sail University? And then, as a graduate, that you are how much better than graduates of Full Sail University would graduating from that particular game program make?
I'll tell you one thing is he's probably richer than us because we paid a lot of money to go to that school.
So
sure, yeah, I'm loaded.
Real quick, show I know Harlan went to Full Sail. I know Jamie went to Full Sail. Anthony, did you go to Full Sail as well? No, yes,
no. Went to Texas State Technical in Waco.
Jazz, you weren't Full Sail. It was Mike.
No. I'm not the programmer with these guys.
Okay, so
we went to school for video game design and development as well.
Yeah,
and took classes with Dave Arneson, Gary Gygax's estranged partner. And they have a lot of bitter Gary Gygax screwed me out of D&D anecdotes from
He
Arneson
has so many
class.
wonderful things to say about Gary. He didn't have any grudges at all.
It was like a curse word.
You guys told me there was one class that he just walked in and went, Gygax! for an hour. And I wasn't even sure how you would get a credit for that, but you did. I mean, you paid for it, I guess. So,
my one like connection to a celebrity from VFS was that the guy that taught us drawing for like 5 courses was one of the animators for Ren and Stimpy and the Oblongs. So I was like, all right, that's pretty cool.
Nice.
That's cool. Harlan made an Elmo game. So I think that was
Harlan and Anthony. Let's not just throw Harlan in that game.
Yep. I worked on that game too.
It was oddly enough the only mature rated Elmo game that ever came out, and maybe explains why they're not in game design anymore.
It's hard to believe. Yeah.
No. I think they later modded it into like a Splatterhouse spinoff. So, what's a tip from DMs for Dungeon Masters that may be listening that would be reflective of something that you learned at the Vancouver Film School game design program?
Weirdly enough, like we learned the thing I took away most from VFS was like cinematic analysis and like narrative analysis through movies and whatnot, and like simply learning like the hero's journey or the 3-act structure. I think really helps like build a campaign or even just like a short subsection of a campaign. And just like I don't know, VFS is primarily taught by a lot of EA people, and I learned later on that making things super fun makes them fun, but not necessarily purchasable.
So you're saying they have classes on how to be a cog in a giant corporate infrastructure than if it's taught by a bunch of EA people.
Unless someone there is watching, yes.
So had either of y'all done like obviously we're not the first person to do a PvP tournament for D&D, but had either of y'all ever done any kind of PvP combat very specifically focused prior to Gimme Da Belt?
I did little I've never had this scale of PvP. I really enjoy PvP because it's like a fun competition against friends. It's like video games and stuff. So I did like where one of the characters turns against the other, or it's like two people playing, like you're fighting about an idea or something like that. But I've never had anything of this kind of scale, which was cool.
Yeah, I played like all through high school, like 3 years straight, and once in a while we would just be like, "What if today we all just fought to see who's the strongest?" And it was like it was never canon, but before I knew how to play D&D, my friend and I had a 3.5 edition monster manual.
Ooh.
And we used to play this game where we would each pick 5 monsters from the monster manual and pit them against each other, each of them controlling. And I think I just like picked 5 Tarrasques, and I was like, I'm gonna beat you.
So you heard it here, folks. Kelly invented Pokemon, and Nintendo owes them a lot of money. So
the meta is 5 Tarrasques.
Well, look, if you could pick a monster, pick the Tarrasque. You guys are Canadian, so I'm going to trust you on the French pronunciations as opposed to somebody who grew up in Florida and Texas. We say Tarrasque around these parts. It's the Tarrasque. So real quick, just to kind of get your feedback about the tournament format. Is there anything that obviously besides, hey, get your technical head out of your ass before you start the stream. Is there anything that you guys...
Listen, you need to stop being down on yourself. It didn't crash. We all had fun. You did great.
I know. But for me to talk as much trash as I do about these guys, I have to also talk trash about myself. It's just fair that way. Yeah. So plus there's also the crushing insecurity. So they go hand in hand. It's fairness and anxiety. So is there, format wise, do you guys like the 3v3 smaller you got any suggestions for the next one or something you'd like to see? Like, because we originally, when we did it on the 1v1s, there was more, the environments were a little bit interactive, but that felt like that might be a lot to throw at players for their first time out, to go, oh, by the way, and the blood, like originally in the People's Pit, the blood was difficult terrain. And when we ran that through testing, it was like, oh my God, this is an hour and a half of people counting out movement. So that didn't go to the live stream. But is there anything that you guys would maybe think would be a cool addition for the next time around when we run this thing again?
Yeah.
I don't know, because I really like the format because I think the speed of it really helps. And like if someone dies in the second round, they're not sitting around for 5 hours.
Yeah,
it's half hour at most. Like watching some of the Critical Role PvP ones, it's like Travis dies second one and sits there for the next 4 hours with everyone. Yeah, I don't know. And like maybe like 45 minutes would be good, because especially if people are people are coming in, they're not too clear how to play this new character that they've made for the tournament. They might need a little bit of help like deciding what abilities to use.
Cool. Yeah, because also we got we on average, I think there was 3 or 4 rounds of combat in the half hour.
Yeah.
So having that go a little longer, I think could be useful. I think the 3 players worked very well, because then you're able to kind of get a good support base for all the big damage dealers and the healers and all that stuff.
Yeah, when we were first thinking about that, we got kind of ambitious. I think we were looking at 5 for a second, and we were like, let's dial it back down. Then we talked about 2, and then we were like, I think we settled in at 3. So
what is this? What is this teamwork thing you speak of that you guys had, where y'all had different roles and support? I think I heard you use the word support.
I think it's a French word for it's not about you, Todd.
Oh,
yeah.
I don't know if it translates literally, but
I mean, like our strategy was literally that Char would be Twilight Sanctuary, because that gives us 60 diameter. That's the one across the circle, right?
I'll take your word for it. I suck at those too. I'll be honest with you. Radius, diameter, there's pi factors in somewhere.
It gave us 60-foot diameter to spread Wilmer and Asher apart, because Asher's whole thing was just run up to people and start punching. Yeah. If I get a stun, that's good.
Super melee.
People need to focus on me and leave the person that's throwing massive fireballs at you alone. while we just have like a healer tank in the middle, just shooting off spells and healing us the entire time.
It was amazing strategy. I don't think your health went below anything. It was just like temporary 9 hit points. I was like, what?
It was honestly, it was all Char. She's so competitive,
Char,
and I think if we didn't win, we would have been kicked off the show. You just said yes. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, the feedback has all been really positive, and again, I think it's something we're going to keep going forward with it, and that's awesome feedback. We appreciate that little bit of extra time. But one of the things we wanted to get built into the overlay is that having that 45-second shot clock kind of up for the individual's moves, because I think you can draw the round time out a little bit if you're just making sure that everybody's real snapping through their moves really quickly, and not constantly debating their movement and what they're going to use their cunning action for to get the extra dash to move over. Oh, sorry, you're back, Harlan. So you guys actually produce your streams, your shows both as live streams and podcasts. Why both? Did they start as a stream that you're like, okay, might as well record this and produce a podcast? Hey, we're going to do a podcast and let's go ahead and stream the recording session? Or was that intentional right from the get-go?
I think from the beginning, we always kind of wanted to do a podcast. And then from that, I think because I know Kelly and Char, you folks were streaming Vampire the Masquerade at the time with a different group. And then Char was on the core team at that point, and Char was like, let's do streams too. Like, streams are really fun. We're enjoying it. So we decided to do the stream as well. And then it all just kind of grew from there as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay. I was just going to say, I think the idea for doing stream and podcast was literally just like cover as much ground as we could.
Right.
Yeah. Get as much audience involvement as possible.
Because I know your bio says a lot of you graduated from the same theater program. Did that factor into it all, or is that just, hey, look, we're going for broke on this? That wasn't a consideration, or did it feed into it a little bit?
I'm sure it did a little at certain points. Like, we all really enjoy performing, whether that be at like a live show like Kelly used to do with Geeks versus Nerds, or like us in our term presentations, doing like shows and cabaret nights. Like, there's always that extra bit of juice that comes from a live show instead of just kind of sitting with friends around a computer. So I think that's definitely an aspect. Plus, like, it's fun. It's fun to see people like commenting in the chats being like, murk them, kill all the PCs.
TPK.
So, can you talk a little bit about the similarities and differences between like a live stage show and a live stream? Is it more interaction? I mean, obviously you don't have to wear pants when you're streaming. Big plus. But other than that, is it the audience? What do you like more about each format?
Yeah. So streams are cool because you can do them at home. You can do them without pants. You can like theoretically just be snacking while it's going on. And you get to see actually live people's reactions versus if you're doing it kind of like a live show, or if you're doing like theater performance, you don't have that, like, you're not going to be in the middle of like Phantom of the Opera and someone's going to stand up and be like, take off your mask. Like, hopefully that's not going to happen in a live show. And it's very different from that perspective, where instead of getting the individual comments, you actually get to feel the vibe of the room and feel the tension as moments happen. Plus, like, I feel like both of them have the threat of complete collapse as well, which is always fun. Like,
I just want, I want 20 people to walk in late to Beauty and the Beast and cast on is like, hey, thanks for the raid.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. So, and guys, take notes that they've told you what's appropriate, inappropriate for theater for the field trip that we're doing in the future. So you guys, no shouting at the stage actors when we go out. So let's
promise nothing.
No browsing online while you're there.
Phones away. So, So how much do what you guys the final product of what you stream versus what goes into the podcast? And I have started listening to. I started listening to season 2 of your podcast right after the tournament and went, shit, I like it enough. I've got to go back and listen. So I got like right past you guys beating the Hydra. And I'm like, God damn it, I like it. So now I got to go back all the way to season 1, and I started over from season 1 because I listen to. I have a very hard time making it through a live stream of DD, but I love the podcast. But I don't get hooked as quickly as I did with y'all's. And I was like, shit, damn it, they're good. So obviously you've got a little bit more. And one of the things I like about doing the podcast as opposed to a live stream is we can edit out the 30 minutes of me going, hold on, I did, you guys, what is the math for jump again? Okay, it's your strength modifier plus this time running distance. Damn it, Todd. So why did I give you a ring of jump? That's my fault. That's on me. How different is that final product? Because I haven't watched a ton of the streams. So do you guys edit a bunch down, or is it pretty much what you stream is what you get on the podcast?
Yeah, so I edit the Titties by Night one, and I had done podcasts before, and I definitely hit in my older podcasts. I was like, I need to get rid of every all the uhs, every like moment of hesitation I need to remove. But I kind of like got over that a little bit, and I think that was mostly just from like watching other actual plays or like listening to podcasts. Like they'll leave in and thinking and stuff like that. So mostly I'll remove like our breaks and any things that like somebody like said their line wrong, not line as it's scripted, but like they said something and then corrected themselves. Right. I'm like, I'll get rid of the first one. And just like little tweaks like that. But then I'll go in and like add music and add our advertisement and stuff like that. And it's mostly just, for me, it's just kind of like polishing it rather than like completely altering it.
Cool. Yeah, please help me get to there where I don't feel obligated to remove every because it is the boulder of my Sisyphusian life right now of, oh God, I got to edit another podcast. And because I'm editing both our main cast and then all our bonus stuff, and I'm self-taught, and God love Audition because it's so much easier than Audacity that if I didn't have that, I would be totally lost. But yeah, I struggle with that a lot. Like just the little tweaks here and there. So I got to learn to let go a little bit. So
I think the thing that really helped me is we watch Dimension 20 all the time, and I really pick up on how like Brennan like stutters a lot and uses ums and stuff like that. And I think it's just like that's how people talk like that. You don't like if you edit it out, you're fundamentally changing how the person speaks. So just like leave it in and people will like it, hopefully.
And that's what's ironic. It drives me crazy when I hear myself do it, but when the guys do it, I'm like, it's just, or if I do it while I'm acting out as an NPC. Like if an NPC can and yet what do you knows for days, but the second I start doing it, I'm like, that sounds like garbage. I got to take that out.
I'm bad. I suck.
What is this redneck from?
So you get polished, but we don't? Is that what you're saying?
No. You guys sound more.
That's what I was hearing.
Tiny bit. I'll tell you. I also re-record all the funny shit you say in my voice, so it sounds like I'm the smartest and funniest. I take advantage of all of it. So you guys, your show describes yourself as a queer and feminist podcast, and we've touched on the importance of diversity on some of our other DM-splainings. Can you talk a little bit about what representation in the gaming and TTRPG space has meant to y'all?
Okay, yeah. So I know for myself, it was just having it be that it's something that I can do and not feel like I'm entering into someone else's space. Because I think you get that especially with games that have a steep learning curve. It's very hard for someone who doesn't have any experience to get into that. And if you go into that also already feeling like an outsider and not seeing anyone who looks like you or who has your experience get into that, it's very daunting. And I have a lot of friends who haven't tried D&D or haven't tried any other of the RPGs because of that. And I think that's part of the things that we're trying to do in the community as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. I came in season 2, so I was running tech in season 1,
Mhm.
and it's very rare to like. There's just it was all femme people, and like we raid after all of our streams, and we like specifically look, and it's like a bunch of dudes, and then we're like, hey, we're femme, and then even coming on, I was like, I felt a little awkward because I'm like mask, but I was like, I think being non-binary and being femme is like a rare thing in the community, so. Like when we get guests, like we look for people that are like non-binary or genderqueer and stuff like that, and we're like, that's our priority is, yeah. Not being all dudes.
Yeah, and I hear you. We skew very, very broy in our cast, to say the least. But it is, we are, 50% of the cast are people of color, which I think differentiates us a little bit from the other some of the other podcasts out there. And I know specifically Jazz kind of spoke to it a little with some of the encounters that he had kind of coming into TTRPGs. In fact, he likes the original D&D movie because of it, and in any additional representation that we can get across all groups that prevent the tragedy of somebody having to like that movie to see themselves.
Listen, I was like 12. Work. It was just the time at that point where I could accept trash like that in my life. Okay, I know it's a bad movie, but it was what got me. All right.
Well, I would say the work that you guys do is important on a lot of levels.
While we're on the subject, I hope I'm right. I think Sarah, was it you that I was communicating with on with Twitter? Yeah. Okay, so I just want to take a moment to thank you for the way you responded to me initially inviting you guys, because it was clear to me that you put thought into you wanting to try and make sure that there was space for other people of color when I invited you and kind of told you the gist of what our plans were. And the fact that you were just able to answer so honestly, like, hey, we would love to take part in this, but we really, we would love for you to be able to find more people of color in this. And I was like, for anybody who's an ally to that level, I want you involved in this also. So I just want to take a moment again to tell you guys thank you for that.
Yeah, we absolutely appreciate that 100%.
Yeah, and going forward, like we want to expand our cast and stuff, and that's going to be like one of our priorities as well. Is like we want to get people of color because we acknowledge that we're also all white people, and that's something that we no longer really feel comfortable about and want to change going forward as well.
I saw your guest list on your website. It looked like it was very diverse. I was just like, wow, okay, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, we've been really proud about that, and. Yeah, like everyone we've played with has just been incredible, and it's helps us have a huge pool of awesome people we want to play with.
Yeah, yeah. Shar does a great job at that. She's the DM for our Into the Revelia D&D show, and she and Kelly both source all of the guests for those shows, and they do such a good job.
Well, cool. How would you guys grade WotC's and Paizo's level of representation for the LGBTQ plus community, just in general, and then also on gender tropes, and then also how would you guys grade the current climate in the overall TTRPG creator community?
It's getting better.
Yeah.
Being I can't remember which book Wizards did that was like talking about gender specifically, and like seeing characters that use like they them pronouns and stuff. For me at least, that's been pretty cool because like having basically grown up on D&D, I feel like I'm like aging with it because I didn't really even come out until like 2 or 3 years ago. So it's like, oh cool, as I'm figuring myself out, Wizards is getting their shit together as well.
Yeah. And I think something that's super important and not to overlook is like RPGs in general are a massive way for the queer community to experiment with gender and sexual orientation. Like I know like myself, like I love playing a boy on Into the Revelia because it's a really fun, safe way to explore these different feelings and these different experiences. And I have a couple friends, and that's kind of how they found out who they were, by playing different characters.
That's cool.
I always joke about my high school character was a changeling who would like constantly switch genders and stuff. And I look back on that, I'm like, huh, All right.
That's good. That worked out. But, I think the general consensus as we ask that question, we've asked that question to a number of people, is that getting better, I think, is the overall theme that we hear from a lot of different groups, and that's always a positive sign that things are improving overall. So speaking of white people, Canada, you guys are in Canada.
Yeah.
So just I'm sorry, I had to take a shot, right?
Yeah.
Like we go light, we go serious, we're back to light again. Here we are.
Hey, wait,
Here we
you want
are.
to swap it back serious again? Where did all the POCs go? They're in the ground.
We're gonna. That's one thing that you guys do have a disclaimer at the beginning of your show, specifically talking about the colonial past of Canada. And is that I know there's been a ton of news that on some of the political podcasts that I listen to about what was going on with the bodies being found underneath the was it Catholic schools up there or what?
The residential schools. So
Residential
it's basically
schools.
like forced Catholicism.
Okay. What have you guys always done that? Is that a recent development? I mean, again, because I just started recently listening. I didn't know if that disclaimer's always been there or if it's something that just recently came out as news continued to pile up on y'all's side.
Yeah, it was something that I really liked about theater, because theater started doing that like when we were going there pre-Panini. And I always thought it was really cool because it's like it's very grounded, and it's like everyone's there and they're ready for, I don't know, Macbeth or something, but modern theater.
Yeah.
And it's really like a moment of like, hey, everyone, let's get serious for a moment and talk about this. And it's like the least we can do, and like not having it, and like to talk about like all the stuff that's happened in Canada and not having it is just weird.
Right.
And like having it doesn't inconvenience us at all, and it's like it informs people as much as we can.
Yeah, and you guys have got some incredible resources on your website. I would encourage anybody who's watching or who hears this later on to absolutely check out tabletoptiddies.com with the double D's because number one, you get to listen to their show, which is really good. But also number two, the resources you guys have got for disability, accessibility, regarding some of the indigenous charities is just fantastic. And I was really super impressed by that. You guys have got the combat wheelchair up there, which is really cool. You've got a number of resources specifically for how to respectfully role play certain cognitive and neurodivergent situations, which I really appreciate. I was like, because I dove into the OCD section, I was like, God damn, this is handled very, very, very well, and I really appreciate it being in there in a very, very constructive way. So it was really cool. It was super impressed, and again, another really good reason to check out y'all's website. So.
Yeah, it's one of those things that like we can't even really take credit for, because the community has just been so good at like making this stuff that isn't available, and like basically homebrewing in representation. I looked at the ADHD one and I was like, oh god, this is too real.
Yeah, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, and like the chronic pain one I think is also very cool, because I have numerous friends that have chronic pain, and I was like, showed it to them and I was like, yo, let's play some D&D. Like we can make like ourselves in characters, and it just kind of keeps it fun.
Yeah, and it's done in an interesting and respectful way. I mean, that's what's really cool, and really kind of well balanced way too. As a DM, I was really super impressed with it. So is podcaster or dungeon master considered a federally skilled worker for immigration? I mean, I'm not saying it's terrible here and we all desperately want to move, but just asking for a friend. I've got an Australian podcast lined up later that I'm going to ask the same question to. No, but so do you guys? I mean, I was kind of shocked. I was like, oh shit, they're all Canadians. I had no idea kind of going into it until I started. When I looked at y'all's website, I was like, oh, does that play into the flavor of your podcast? I'm not like obviously, oh yeah, we're going to take a long rest and grab some poutine, but does that work into y'all's stories at all? Do you feel like that element is there at all, or is it just you guys tend to stay more traditional, Forgotten Realmsy fantasy style?
We apologize to each other a lot. Like, we keep fucking up, but then we're like, I'm so sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh man, I didn't mean to hit you with that fireball. I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry, eh?
Well,
just
how politeful and charming the exchange was, Kelly, between you and oh god, Chaz, help me! I'm totally blanking on the name.
The Goliath.
Yes,
the Goliath.
Oh,
Yes.
Moses.
Moses.
Yeah. There we go. In the final round, I was like, oh damn it, they're gonna nice each other to death. I love it, but I have to come on as the voice of God and be like, kill him.
Kill him.
Wilmer, this is Steve casting message, kill him.
I mean, both rounds we just healed. At the end, we just healed them.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. So you guys mentioned Dimension 20. What other are there any other fantasy or TV shows that you get that y'all are currently enjoying?
Oh, Dungeons and Daddies just ended, and that broke my heart.
Yeah, well, season 1, they're coming back.
Yeah, and they're doing one shots and stuff and mini arcs, so I'm not too concerned.
I am behind, so I got to catch up.
What? So no spoilers on this, but I thought the end of season 1 would have been the full-blown end of that setting. But season 2's kind of coming back to it, and that's not spoiling anything.
Yeah, because a few episodes before they had their finale, they're like, "Hey, just so you know, season 2, we're gonna kind of keep it the same." And I didn't really know how they were gonna do that until the post-credit scene of the final episode. Which I almost turned it off and missed it, and then it kept going, and I was like, "What is happening?"
I say thank you for that small bit.
Yeah,
I probably would have turned it off.
Post-credit scene, folks.
It's important to stay after the credits for that one. Any shows or anything, or just mostly streams and podcasts?
I mean, I'm personally a sci-fi nut, so if we're recommending some sci-fi TV shows, if you're into like shitty sci-fi with lots of twists.
Canadian sci-fi is what you
mean.
That is one of the questions I have up, because we do one of our bonus content is we do a Supernatural rewatch podcast, and I do a deep IMDb dive, and those are all filmed up north, and so there's these huge blocks of shows in some of these actors resumes, and I'm like, I don't know what these are, and I don't know if I should go. So yes, please, some Canadian sci-fi or fantasy that we might not have on our radar.
All right, Dark Matter is really good. It's like a bunch of people wake up from Cairo. Yeah, right.
I love
wake up, no memories. Who are they? And then they find out who they all are, and it's super cool. And there's one person who they don't know who they are. So, so many twists.
Did it end properly? Did they have a full season? I think it was like 3 seasons.
It ends on a cliffhanger.
I love that.
Yeah.
By far, one of my favorite sci-fi TV robots of all time. Like the android on that show is just fantastic. I love her so much.
Also, Trickster, which is like a CBC Canada show. And it's an Indigenous Haisla teenager. And he's a small-time drug dealer in Kitimat, BC. And kind of like the Aboriginal trickster gods and stuff start basically fucking with him.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a really cool show. It's only got 1 season because there's some production problems. Because the lead producer of that show was faking being Indigenous. So the show got canceled for season 2. But season 1, really good.
Shard and I just watch a lot of horror things. Like everything that's horror we'll watch.
That's Jamie.
That's all I watch.
I can't do horror. I am a sucker for pop scares. My brain is just wired in a way that no matter how much I know it's coming, it gets me every single time.
We binged Midnight Mass because we love that director, but once we found out what it was like, hey, this is perfect. I should keep watching this for research reasons.
Have y'all watched the new Dune yet?
Oh yeah.
Nice.
I'm a massive Dune fan.
Yeah, there we go.
The title screen came up and it said part 1, and I screamed in my seat. I was like, what the frick? I was like, I came here for full Dune, not part one.
Sarah hates me because I like the original movie.
The original's good, man. I love me some David Lynch Dune. Like
it's just so disconnected.
It's also
Like,
bad, and I realized
Yeah.
that. Sorry for dunking on you about the D&D movie because I like the old Dune.
I'm glad you admitted it because I was definitely going to circle back around to this. All right.
Look,
Also-
there was a period in the like 94 to 96 where all the Sci-Fi Channel did was run different directors' cuts of Dune, and I watched them all in various levels of intoxication and under various effects of mind-altering substances, and love it to death. And it is, it's not good. It's not, but it is entertaining, and it is and I think I am old enough to actually have been taken to the theater, probably way too young to see it, but I do remember seeing the original in the theater. My dad took me, that's a movie that'll stick with you as a kid. I will tell you that much. Right there.
Yeah.
I just have a huge crush on Kyle MacLachlan. So basically anything that he's in, I'm like, yeah, please, more. Yes.
I couldn't watch. What's the show, guys? Somebody help me.
Twin Peaks.
Twin Peaks,
Twin Peaks.
because I was like, what's the Dune guy doing in the Pacific Northwest? Seriously, I could not get that's Muad'Dib, man. Do not fucking, what is Muad'Dib doing as an FBI agent? But yeah, that would be my only complaint about the new one is it is half of a movie. Now, the good news is they did officially finally greenlight the second half, so it will go into production.
But questions?
It wasn't 100% guaranteed. They were like, we're going to see how it goes the first weekend, and I'm sure as long as it did okay. But I think I don't think everybody's 100% guaranteed signed on to come back.
Oh, wow.
And that would be my only complaint is like, oh, this half a movie. It's half of a really good movie, and the scale of the set pieces that they do are just incredible.
So cool.
But it is, the one thing I will say about the Lynch Dune is it did a little bit better job, I think, dipping into the overall world building than this one did. And of course, by copious amounts of voiceover, sure.
You mean like universe building?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Sorry, Jack.
Well, I was just wasn't
sure.
You're
gonna actually me on the phrase world.
I was just trying to speak specifically of like what was going on like Arrakis versus like all of it.
Universe building.
Yeah, world building. You know what he meant.
I honestly did not.
Even in the new Dune movie, like I feel like there could have been more of the classism that you see in the book and that movie. Like especially in the sci-fi limited series, you see like there's the whole like they're like the wealthy are just wasting water.
Oh yeah.
Just like completely and utterly water.
Well, and that's one of the things that's very much at the heart of the entire series is what if we abandon technology and basically a social underclass was created to fulfill that role, and that's kind of where the Mentats sit, and that's where there's a number of other things in the book that kind of play into that. It did feel a little bit thin in some of those aspects. Really kind of dove into that, but hopefully the back. I mean, there's got to be so much crammed into the back half at this point that they that they will do, and hopefully they'll get into some of the later books because shit gets real weird in the later books. So that's if you have read the series, and if you have not, I absolutely recommend you do it at least through God Emperor, which I think is the third or fourth book.
Okay.
So
I just read the first one, and then so part of the reason why I was so angry about the part one is I did a Dune one shot to kind of celebrate the releasing of the movie, and it's on our podcast. And it takes place right after Harkonnen's takeover. And there's things that I was 100% sure were going to come up in the movie because I did it before I ever did the movie. And then they didn't come out in the movie because it's just part one. And I was like, oh no, there's so many spoilers in this fucking one shot. So many.
To be fair, though, I mean, this is on its second. It's been done. This is the third iteration of it, right? So at this point, I think it's fair to say we are well in the public domain of spoilers for Dune. I think that's a safe spoilery zone for that one. Like if they remade. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna make a dumb joke, and I'm glad you interrupted me.
No,
you got
That's what we do here.
Kelly,
I was gonna say my favorite iteration was the Kevin Bacon one. Tremor.
Tremors
Tremors
an
is a
American
classic
Tremors
in
is
this
a
house.
classic.
In
Yeah.
this house, Tremors is a classic.
Yeah, Jazz is a big Tremors fan.
I've seen
How could you not be?
all of them.
Even the new
So,
ones?
Even the
yeah,
even the new
the new
ones.
yeah.
Even the new ones.
Nice.
When they're not even worms anymore, where they have legs and they're running around
Yeah.
and they fly.
That's
Yeah.
in 2.
Two,
And they
yeah.
start flying in 3.
We don't need to. We don't need the
Oh my,
Wikipedia
no,
history.
let,
Yeah,
you let,
we're
him,
good.
let him explore the space. Damn it. You let him explore the space.
I'm done.
Let him lay himself out there so we can make fun of it later. Harlan. Cut it out.
Yeah.
So y'all have acting backgrounds, and obviously playing TTRPGs when you've done any kind of theater or you've had any kind of training in that realm, it just fits like a glove. But if somebody's starting to play TTRPGs and they don't have that training, what are some tips that you might have to make them feel a little bit more comfortable, or to come up with a characterization kind of on the fly because I think that's, I think it's easier to put the rules in front of somebody and say, hey, roll this dice and get higher than this number is the easy part of I mean, yeah, there's a lot of those and they can be super complicated, but it's a very cut and dry system, but it's also it's really just half the game, and really getting into the role part of the role playing is what takes it from just, okay, now I've got a board game without the board to, oh no, wait, this is something completely different. So do you guys have any tips or that maybe for somebody who's a novice kind of come into it that would kind of let them shed that skin a little bit and kind of get into the role play space?
Yeah, I know, like, for myself, I think one of the things that I really rely on in terms of RP is there's obviously the basics of create a character, have your character want something. But I think something that very often gets overlooked is feel a certain way about the people you're on the adventure with. Cause if you listen to especially early season 1, of our show, you get who does my character thinks of one of the characters as a parental figure, and how does that differ from one of the other characters being treated like a best friend, and kind of exploring those dynamics through the role play. They obviously don't have to be your character's best friend or your character's actual parent, but kind of exploring those relationships of oh, I think of them as this, I'm scared of them, they're the bully, whether or not that character is an actual bully. That's kind of a fun thing to explore if one of the characters is really nice and you're oh, I'm scared of them for no reason. That's just kind of cool role playing.
My always go-to advice for new RPers is just steal. Find a character from a show that you like and start playing that character. If you join a new Vampire the Masquerade Chronicle and you're playing Blade, no one's gonna fucking care. If you play Ryan Reynolds' character, they'll probably get upset at you. But that character's motivation, where they you can fudge their backstory if you want, or just play their backstory. And you'll be able to act as that character as you're playing. And then as things pop up that you're adjusting and you're reacting to, the character will slowly change and become your own. But at least you're starting from a base of I know what King Arthur wants. He wanted to make that table and put a bunch of dudes in it. I know.
Really great summary.
Legendary for that table.
Yeah.
Gotta put a bunch of dudes around.
Joined a fucking woodworking class, made a table. Done.
Yeah. We're I don't know, if you like watching What We Do in the Shadows, that's 90% of all VTM Chronicles. It's just a bunch of assholes making jokes. And
damn it, you beat me to the Nandor reference. I was going there. Curse you. I am a huge What They Do in Shadows fan, so that show is goddamn genius. And the spinoff, Wellington Supernatural, also. I am hugely
watch them. They don't have TV or many streaming services, so I have to find these things as legal as I can.
Find other ways.
Don't make that noise.
Legal-ish.
Hypothetically, this is
legal adjacent is what we.
Yeah.
I only have AT&T gives away HBO Max is the only reason why I have it, and it's just oh, they've just put all this stuff on there now. So I stumble ass backwards into having it. I don't go seeking it out somehow. Well, cool, gang. Let's go around the horn real quick. Harlan, do you have any questions for the Tiddies?
I actually don't.
I'm going to say it every single time, so just get ready.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I'm sorry. I
Jazz,
usually do.
Jazz,
It's okay.
Jazz,
Well,
Jazz.
it's
Any
Jamie's
questions?
turn. It's Jamie's turn.
I'm going around the circle clockwise. I'm doing a Brady Bunch thing. Live with it.
All right.
Okay.
So-
Nope. You lost your turn.
You are pointing
Any
at me,
question for the
though,
titties?
so-
What? You want to go after Jazz?
Oh.
No, God damn you!
No, you were pointing at me, so I got confused because I don't know.
Well, I
Okay.
said Eldrin. Any questions for the titties? Yeah.
Can you teach Todd how to play a damage class better? Because you were kicking ass with that monk. Man.
Listen.
Wow.
First of all, that was a direct shot at me. I don't like it. Second of all,
I don't think anybody questions that it
I
was a
was-
shot at you.
I was definitely
Yeah.
jealous
It was a
of that
direct
monk.
shot.
I was definitely jealous of that monk.
Oh, dude, Todd has had such monk envy
Monk
before coming
envy.
into this.
Yeah.
Kelly, now after like watching it, I was like, I'm
Yeah.
never gonna get him. Not
You're
to-
never
not to
going to hear
play
the
my-
end of it now.
I mean, don't leave the barbarian's threatened range, because I
Yeah.
could have probably been taken down if he rolled higher. But it just keeps spending stunning strike key points until they're stunned or dead, or you're good. That's it. Just keep punching.
Focus fire. That was, I think
Yeah.
that was the thing that Todd suffered from the most in the matches. You kept running all over the place, hitting different people. It's like, y'all know the goal is to knock one person out, then the next person, then the
That
next
Goliath-
person.
That Goliath hit me, and I immediately pooped my pants.
I don't like this. I don't like this at all.
No,
Did
no.
not like-
Did not like
I mean,
that at
drawing
all.
out the reaction in the first round worked, so I was like, fuck it, let's do it again. And then he hit me for like 25 points of damage, and I'm like, that was not smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I was being smart. He hit me with 3 attacks. I was like, "Oh, I'll just take half of the first attack," and then the attacks just kept coming. And I was just like, I gotta go.
Oh, brutal.
All right, Jazz. Now your turn. Do you have any questions for the titties?
I do. In your character building, do you guys do any type of like well, I guess Kelly just kind of spoke to it as far as like stealing from a previous character that you can use. Do you do that a lot in your character building? Or do you try to go into it with something fresh, like a general idea that you've already tried to kind of flesh out in your characters? Specifically
Go
with
first,
as far as it goes with your podcast. Sorry.
Like I know for myself, when I first started thinking about a character, I had just started watching Dimension 20 and their the one that takes place in New York. I started watching that campaign.
Oh yeah.
Unsleeping City.
And Unsleeping City. And I saw that Allie played a wild magic sorcerer, and I was like, that is sick. And I didn't want to steal like their character idea, obviously, but I kind of just was thinking, I was like, okay, wild magic, what's also wild? So then I was like, hormones. Hormones can make anyone do wild shit. So that's kind of how I came onto a like wild like teenager, and like having that the hormones of that kind of impact the wild magic, and then just finding a way to ground myself into the world. And then as soon as you have like a teenager who's experiencing wild hormones, I feel like the character's already kind of
Right.
there, so it's an easy jumping off point. Yeah, usually I just kind of find a cool feature of a character, and then I use that as my jumping off point for character building. Kelly?
Like I mentioned before, I have like at least 20 characters made already, but whenever I join a new show, I don't use any of them because I'm like, I got a fresh new idea. So with Asher specifically, it was like, okay, the team needs a healer, but I also don't want to just be like a cleric that'll shoot heals at everyone. So I was like,
Right.
what can I make that'll be fun for me to play? So I made a monk lock, and then I was like, okay, these numbers on paper look fine. I'll probably be able to do healing. And I came up with the idea that they were a physician, and they've got connections to like some of my older characters from playing in high school. And then the moment I tried to heal someone, it was like, I heal you for 4. I was like, I have fucked up. So it's still fun to be able to dimension door to someone and then punch them back to life. But it's like, I made a really bad character. So that's kind of like the whole, my character has like imposter syndrome. And I was like, fuck it. That's my character knows that they're not good at this. They really want to do better, and man, I built a bad character.
Hey, we got 15 episodes in before the cast even realized our cleric was the healer. So don't feel bad. Don't feel bad. Even at that point, I think Moyle was like, "Wait, I'm not the tank." Like, no, the barbarian.
Why not both?
Yeah.
Why not?
Well, like that's what's so cool about clerics is
Yeah,
you
it
can
is.
be both.
You absolutely can.
If there is
Not-
another
not- not
healer,
as
though.
He was neither.
Not the trickster cleric. Not the trickster
Oh,
cleric is
no.
not the tank.
No, the Trickster cleric is not the tank.
So speaking of tanks, Anthony, do you have any questions for the titties?
No, man, we
Oh.
covered a lot, and it was amazing. Glad to have y'all on.
Cool.
That's great.
Throwing it to the chat real quick. Does anybody in the chat have anything that for the titties that we haven't touched on? That sounded way pervier than intended. But all right, there we go. We knew it was going to happen eventually. Y'all put me in this situation. You brought this here. You brought the titties in, and now it's happening.
They're on full display now, and we got to deal with it.
You guys, you brought them out. One on the left, one on the right. What do you expect me to do?
Oh my
Got the marriage
god.
titty.
Yeah. My favorite one that we always get whenever we do kind of like any Instagram live, it's like, who's your favorite titty? And it's like, hey.
Well, I think that will wrap it up then for us, guys. We absolutely appreciate, one, you participating in the event and sticking with us as we kind of worked out the kinks. Two, proactively agreeing to come back and defend your title at the drop of a hat. And three, coming on tonight on extremely short notice to chat to us a little bit about the show and your experiences and the whole nine. So we always like to wrap this up with a question that I like to spring on the cast at the absolute last minute to make them asked awkwardly. And as the guest, you guys get to go last. So,
Okay.
so since
I want to
Yes.
go first.
since you're prepared, so and yours might be able to be here. So what we're gonna do here is Harland. What's your favorite foreign sci-fi or fantasy show? Since we talked a lot about Canadian and bad sci-fi, what's your favorite
Sarah.
foreign
God damn
I
it.
am ready.
foreign sci-fi or fantasy?
Hmm.
And we sit here and judge you
What's-
awkwardly until you answer.
Foreign. Isn't The Expanse Canadian? Is it?
Yeah. It
Then
is.
that's what I'm picking.
Okay,
That's foreign to me.
Yeah.
we'll allow it.
Am I allowed to pick an American one then?
Yes,
Yeah.
that might be easier for you
It's
guys.
like literally 90% of sci-fi.
but find an American show that's not filmed in Canada. That's the trick. That's the
Oh,
catch.
okay,
Oh,
okay.
see, look.
Now it's getting tricky.
Eldrin, what do you got?
Orphan Black. That was BBC, right? That sounded
Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
damn good show.
Orphan
too.
Black is Canada, bud.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Damn it.
Yeah.
They're all going to be Canadian.
They're all Canadian.
Sci-
The
sci-
100.
Sci-fi lives and breathes in Canada, as we find out through IMDb. It's like, goddamn, everybody on this is Canadian. There, it goes so deep. There are people who have had their entire acting careers just be
Yeah.
news anchor A, news anchor B on sci-fi shows in Canada. We've discovered as we've done the Supernatural deep dive.
Well,
It's
like
like, wait a
William Shatner, he started his career in Canadian sci-fi. That's how he got big enough to get roles on other shows.
And finished it by being shot into space by Jeff Bezos.
Hey.
Jazz, I'll learn how cameras work eventually. Your go.
I'm pretty sure this counts. It's a Korean show series on Netflix called
Yes.
Sweet Home.
Oh.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I haven't seen it yet, but it's
I
on
haven't
the
seen.
list.
What's it about?
So it's from a manga or I guess a Korean manga that I read that it's like a zombie apocalypse type situation
Mhm.
where it actually starts off as it's unexplained phenomena that causes people to just start transforming into monsters, and then there's a apartment complex full of people trying to survive, and it gets nuts.
Is that the one my wife put you on?
She put me on the one made by the same mangaka that he did before that, and then this one ended up getting developed into a full series television series.
My wife is a webtoons junkie,
Nice.
and I guess it's my turn.
That's your turn.
Doctor Who.
I knew you was going to
There you
die.
go. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. All right. Titties dealer's choice on which of you goes first.
I mean, was that one you're gonna be yours, Sarah? Because
what, Doctor Who? No, I got so many, dude. My like, we got a bag of holding with like international sci-fi.
I'll go.
Mine's yeah, go.
Mine's fucking easy because like I said, I mostly watch horror, so I'm like, I don't know. Black Mirror. Black Mirror is my favorite.
Black Mirror is fantastic. Yeah.
Black Mirror is good.
I love that they were like, hey, we're not going to release this season because the pandemic is basically like a fucking Black Mirror episode. So we'll let you chill till that's done.
I have to like take Black Mirror in episodes because sometimes it gets real dark. My soul can't take it. I gotta be like, all right, we've got to take a break from this.
And you're like, I just need to think about what this means.
Yes, it's dark.
Yep.
All right, Sarah, let a couple fly because because
I was like, I got two that are like pretty decent. 3%. It was Brazilian. Super cool.
Is that the post-apocalyptic one where they're competing to get into like a paradise?
Yeah.
Yes,
it's super neat. And everyone does it on their like 16th birthday. And there's such cool like ramifications because it's literally like whatever you do to win. It's not one of those where like you're following the rules.
Yeah,
super cool.
Show. Great show.
Yeah, and then like I can't remember if it's the season 1 finale where one of them makes it into becoming one of the 3%, but that twist is really cool. And then
I don't know why for some fucking reason I thought you were gonna say one of them makes it into Squid Game.
No, they make it into Squid Game.
Legitimately, that was the show I was trying to look up to remember the name of to use this mine. So you'll excuse me while I go back to Google real quick.
All right.
Your next one.
My other one is I think in English it's called The Returned. But it's a French sci-fi show called Les Revenants, and it's really cool because it's like a bunch of kids die in this bus crash, and then like it's something like 5 years later they come back, and the one thing that always sticks with me is one of the twins died in the bus crash and then comes back at the same age, and the other twin is now like 18 or whatever, and it's such a cool dynamic.
And so creepy, man. That show has gotten such an amazing creep factor. There was an American remake that I haven't watched because the original version is so good. I'm like, why would you even fuck with this? Why? Seriously.
Because America.
Because America. Since Sarah stole two of the really good ones, I would go to. I'm gonna totally cheat and just say Torchwood. Fuck it, Torchwood. I'm gonna ride on
Torchwood. Torchwood's good.
Torchwood is good.
Turner,
was it the Sarah Parker Adventures?
Wait, okay, hold on. So are you talking about Dr. Econ?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I don't think any of us are watching a ton of stuff right now because we've all got so much else going on. It's like, oh, I have exactly 30 free seconds to do something during the week, and I will sneak in a show or something. And my reading list is so back up right now. It is frightful right now. So, well, cool. Then on that note, gang, we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you so much again, Tiddies, for coming on. Again, everybody, that's tabletoptiddies.com. I think is probably the easiest. Is there anything else you guys particularly want to plug besides the Tiddies website?
I'll plug my musical, The Girl Next Door. It's super cute. It's a queer pop rock musical, and it's gonna come out in the spring. And if you aren't Vancouver based, don't worry. We got Canada Arts Council funding, and we will be releasing a full soundtrack for it on all the streaming platforms. So,
cool.
Woo.
Well,
I can't believe America's getting a foreign musical.
What?
Some of us would be happy to emigrate and be Vancouver based. So just let us know if
okay. We'll keep you updated.
Keep us posted.
Some of us.
Kelly?
Yeah. I mean, go listen to Drinking and Screaming. Shar and I, we watch horror movies and we pair them with a cocktail and we talk about it through a queer and feminist lens. And this season, we've started releasing all of our cocktail ingredients on Twitter. They used to be Patreon only, but we literally do not have time to manage our Patreon. So all of them are on Twitter, and we have a whole huge backlog. And you can find movies that you like and listen to them.
Yeah, I picked, there's a D&D themed cocktail book that came out recently that I picked up. That's actually surprisingly good, and I've been hooked on necromancers because of that, which is absinthe, gin, Lillet Blanc, and I think lime juice or lemon juice. They're amazing, amazing. So I can't recommend that enough. I will send you guys the link.
Yeah, I was like, this sounds really good.
Recipe and gummy. So again, gang, thanks for joining us. Everybody who watched, thank you for joining us. And as always, hope you enjoyed the show.